I almost gave a patient the wrong medication my first week as a nurse in America. And if I had made that mistake, I wouldn't just lose the job I fought so hard to get. I could have lost my entire career before it even started. It was my third night shift. I hadn't slept properly in days. Everything still felt new. The hospital, the system, even the way people communicated. Back home, I was confident. I knew what I was doing. But here, every step felt like a test I couldn't afford to fail. That night, the floor was chaos. Monitors beeping, patients calling, nurses rushing in and out. And I kept telling myself, just keep up, don't fall behind, don't mess this up. Then it happened. One of my patients needed medication. Simple, routine, something I had done hundreds of times before. I checked the name, picked up the medication, prepared the dose, but I was moving too fast because in my mind, slowing down meant looking like I didn't belong, so I didn't double check. I walked into the patient's room, trying to look calm, like I had everything under control, but inside, my heart was racing because deep down, something didn't feel right. And just as I was about to give the medication, Amina, I froze. It was my supervisor. Amina, tell me you confirmed that dosage. In that moment, everything went silent. Amina, tell me you confirmed that dosage. My heart dropped. For a second, I couldn't even speak because I hadn't. And suddenly, every worst-case scenario hit me at once. The patient, my license, my job, everything I sacrificed to be here, gone because I rushed. I slowly looked down at the medication in my hand, then back at her. I was just about to check again. It wasn't a lie, but it wasn't the truth either. She didn't say anything. She just looked at me. And somehow, that silence felt worse than shouting. Let's verify it together. Calm, controlled, serious. We stepped out of the room. My hands were shaking now. I picked up the chart again, this time carefully. And that's when I saw it. The dosage was wrong. If she hadn't stopped me, I wouldn't be telling this story. Not slightly wrong, completely wrong. If I had given that to the patient, I felt my stomach drop. That was the moment I realized I wasn't just new, I was dangerous if I wasn't careful. Amina, she said quietly, this is why we don't rush. I nodded, but I couldn't look at her. Because now it wasn't just a mistake, it was proof. Proof that maybe I wasn't ready. Proof that maybe I didn't belong. I'm sorry, I whispered, and I meant it, not just for the mistake, but for almost becoming the kind of nurse I never wanted to be. She exhaled, then softened. Listen to me, she said. You caught it before it happened. That matters. But it didn't feel like it mattered. Not to me, because I knew how close I came. Too close. Do you know what the real mistake was? She asked. I shook my head. Trying to prove you can keep up instead of making sure you are doing it right. That hit harder than anything else because she was right. From the moment I arrived, I had been trying to prove something, that I was good enough, that I deserved to be there, that I wasn't a risk, and in doing that, I almost became one. The rest of the shift felt different. I slowed down. Every medication double-checked, every instruction confirmed. I didn't care if I looked slow. I cared about getting it right. But the fear didn't leave immediately. Even hours later, I could still feel it. That moment, that almost. Because sometimes, the scariest thing isn't the mistake you make, it's the one you almost make. After the shift, I sat alone in the locker room, still in my scrubs, just staring at the floor, thinking about how easily everything could have gone wrong. I had left my home, my family, everything familiar for this opportunity. And in less than a week, I had almost thrown it away. That's when I made a decision, not just to be careful, but to change how I worked completely. No more rushing to impress people. No more trying to fit in by moving fast. From that night on, I chose accuracy over speed every single time. Because in that hospital, nobody rewards you for being fast, but one mistake can cost everything, and I was never going to get that close again. I thought that moment was over, that I had learnt my lesson and survived it, but I was wrong, because in that hospital, people notice everything. The next evening, I walked back in, same floor, same noise, same pressure, but it didn't feel the same. Now,
I felt watched. Not in an obvious way. No one said anything, no one pointed fingers, but you can tell. The quick glances, the slight pauses, the way conversations stop when you walk in. It was subtle, but it was there. And in my head, one thought kept repeating, they know. I tried to shake it off, told myself I was overthinking, but then, Amina, you're on meds again tonight. My chest tightened. Of course I was. And suddenly, what used to be routine felt like a test again. Every step that night felt heavier. Pick up the chart, check the name, check the dosage, then check it again and again. To anyone watching, it probably looked excessive, but to me, it was survival. Because now, it wasn't just about the patient, it was about trust. And I wasn't sure I still had it. About an hour into the shift, one of the senior nurses walked past me. She paused, watched me double-check a medication, then said, "You're being very careful tonight." My heart skipped. I forced a small smile, just making sure. She nodded slowly, but didn't say anything else. And somehow, that silence said everything. Now I knew it wasn't just in my head. Word had spread. Not loudly, not officially, but enough. Enough for people to notice, enough for people to watch. And in that moment, the pressure doubled. Because it's one thing to make a mistake. It's another thing to know people are waiting to see if you'll make it again. The shift went on, patient after patient, task after task, and I stayed sharp, focused, careful. But inside, I was exhausted, not physically, mentally. Because when you're constantly trying not to fail, every second feels like a risk. Then, around midnight, another moment, another test. A patient's medication chart didn't match what was in the system. 2 different dosages, 2 different instructions. And for a split second, I froze. Because this is exactly how mistakes happen. Fast decisions, pressure, uncertainty. And I could feel that same instinct creeping back in. Just choose one and move, keep up. But this time, I didn't move. I stepped back, took a breath, and called for verification. It took longer. People had to wait. I could feel the impatience around me, but I didn't care. Not anymore, because I knew what rushing could cost. When the correct dosage was finally confirmed, I felt something shift. Not outside, inside. For the first time since I arrived, I felt in control. Not because I was fast, but because I was sure. Later that night, my supervisor found me again, Lisa. She didn't say anything at first, just stood beside me as I finished documenting. Then, I heard what happened with that chart. My stomach tightened again. Even when you do the right thing, it still feels like you're being evaluated. "You handled it well," she said. I looked up, surprised. Most people, especially when they're new, they guess. They try to keep up. She paused. "You didn't." That hit differently, because this time, it wasn't correction. It was acknowledgement. And in that moment, something I didn't even realize I was holding on to, started to loosen. The fear, the doubt, the feeling that I didn't belong. It didn't disappear completely, but it shifted just enough. By the end of the shift, I wasn't the same person who walked in. Still careful, still aware, but no longer trying to prove myself every second. Because I understood something now. Being a good nurse here wasn't about how fast you move or how confident you look.
It was about how seriously you take the moments that matter, even the small ones, especially the small ones, because those are the ones that turn into big consequences. When I finally left the hospital that morning, the air felt different. Or maybe I did, because just a day ago, I almost lost everything. And now, I was still here. Not because I was perfect, but because I chose to stop pretending I had to be. On my way home that morning, I didn't rush. For the first time since I arrived in America, I wasn't thinking about keeping up. I wasn't replaying every mistake in my head. I was just quiet, sitting there, watching the city wake up. And all I could think about was how close I had come. Not just to making a mistake, but to losing myself. Because somewhere between arriving here and trying to prove I belonged, I had started to forget something important. Why I became a nurse in the first place. It wasn't to impress anyone. It wasn't to move the fastest. It wasn't to prove that I deserved a spot. It was to care for people, to protect them, to do no harm. And that night reminded me how easily that can slip away when you're under pressure. When you're trying so hard to be accepted that you stop being careful, that you stop being present, that you stop being you. When I got home, I didn't go straight to bed. I sat down, still in my scrubs, and I made myself a promise. A simple one, but one I knew I had to keep. Never rush at the cost of someone's safety. No matter how busy it gets, no matter who's watching, no matter how much pressure I feel. Because at the end of the day, this job isn't about proving anything to anyone. It's about responsibility, real responsibility, the kind where one small decision can change everything. And that's something you can't afford to take lightly, not even once. Since that week, I've had harder shifts, more pressure, more complicated situations, but I've never forgotten that moment, that pause, that voice calling my name right before everything could have gone wrong. Because sometimes the moment that almost breaks you becomes the moment that builds you. And if you're watching this right now, maybe starting something new, maybe feeling like you have to prove yourself every second, let me tell you this: slow down. Not because you're weak, but because what you're doing matters. More than you think, more than they tell you, more than you realize in the moment. Because one day you won't be remembered for how fast you moved. You'll be remembered for the moments you chose to get it right, even when it was hard, even when no one was watching, even when everything in you wanted to rush. So take your time, do it right, and trust that that is enough. Because in this job, getting it right once isn't enough. You have to choose it every single time.